Laughter, laughter all around. Give a shout, make a joyful sound, and you will see with new expectancy, and you will know your new reality in me. Laughter, laughter all around. Give a shout, make a grateful sound.
You know, someday, the general church belief system will be very different than it is today. But for now, I don't expect I'm going to change the mind of everyone listening to this talk. But I do hope to make you think, to question, perhaps to do some soul searching, maybe even a little research for yourself. Because we're talking about what you believe about the future, your future, the future of the world, the future of the kingdom. Most people choose not to dig into this subject for many reasons, sometimes because it's just too complicated. But your belief about the future affects your thoughts and attitudes today. It's like there's a script running in the back of your mind, and it's always running there. It contains your beliefs about God and the future, such as, is God really good? And is heaven on earth even possible? You don't have to be consciously aware of the script, nor have made conscious decisions about what's in it, but it is there. And it manifests in every decision you make. It saturates the whole atmosphere of your life. If we're gonna walk in our callings, and if we're gonna bring heaven to earth, at some point we're going to have to deal with our beliefs about the future. It wasn't always true, but during the last few hundred years, much of the church has adopted an extremely negative worldview. Many have chosen to believe that the book of Revelation and several other New Testament prophetic verses are still in the future, which was true when they were written, but not now. The result of this mistake has been doctrines such as the rapture, the Antichrist, and the tribulation. And rather than preaching the kingdom, which is heaven coming to earth, we've encouraged the general belief that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, and that luckily Christians are getting out of here. You know, these mindsets are in opposition. Either heaven is coming or hell is coming. You've got to make up your own mind which one you believe. As we've discussed, Jesus came to change forever the way all men relate to God. One primary purpose of the cross was to take care of the sin problem. Now that righteousness is free, we're restored to our loving relationship with God, and we can partner with Him to fulfill our destiny of bringing heaven to earth. Earned righteousness, otherwise known as toil, was institutionalized by the religious system that was in place when Christ came to earth. This religious system of earned righteousness is in direct opposition to heaven coming to earth. And it's what Christ came to destroy. This is why the religious leaders of his day hated him. The religious system was symbolized by the temple in Jerusalem. To complete Christ's mission, that temple had to be destroyed. But this did not actually happen until 70 years after the death of Christ. The 70 years between the cross and the destruction of the temple were the most difficult in all of Christian history. After the cross, Satan was furious when he realized his imminent defeat. Persecution of Christians was unleashed like never before. The apostles and many disciples became martyrs, and anyone who identified with this new Christian thing was in danger. The Roman ruler at the time was Nero, who was also known as the Beast. Nero was the chief persecutor of Christians, and supporting him were the religious leaders who were still in power in the temple in Jerusalem. The cross had completely and forever destroyed Old Covenant rule keeping, and it made it obsolete. And the religious elite empowered by that system were now enraged. Many, including Jesus himself, prophesied of the coming destruction of the temple and of this terrible 70-year period of history. most of the book of Revelation was also prophesying about this 70-year period of time. Many Christians and theologians now believe that the rapture is a false doctrine, that the tribulation and the Antichrist are in our past, and that heaven on earth is our future. Take the time to read up on the subject. Ultimately, what you believe is between you and God. For right now, let's talk about how our belief on this subject affects our relationship to God and His kingdom. What would be the advantages or disadvantages of each position? Here's a few questions to consider. Do I need to believe that the rapture or the tribulation or the Antichrist is in our future in order to go to heaven when I die? Does my belief in the rapture or the tribulation and the Antichrist encourage or discourage me in partnering with God to bring heaven to earth? How does my belief affect my view of God and His nature? Is He good? How does my belief affect my personal ability to see and walk in my calling and purpose? How does my belief about the future affect my daily decisions now? Do I generally have a positive or a negative viewpoint? Does my belief affect my desire and ability to bring His kingdom, which is heaven, to earth? My point is that agreement with doctrines like the rapture, the tribulation, and the Antichrist tend to create a generally negative mindset regarding the future and to focus on what the enemy is doing rather than on what God is doing. Whatever your ultimate decision on these topics, I encourage you that it's time to move on. Let's get about our Father's business. Let's focus on the kingdom, heaven on earth.